Hello and welcome to Business Finishing School. Let your business brain finish what your entrepreneurial heart started. Our catalyzing statement is a successful entrepreneur inside of every business. Enjoy this module.
Hello and welcome to Module 40, Selling Your Business. I love the title, Selling Your Business, and the reason I love it is because it gives you a lot of options. There's the option to actually go out and position your company for sale and create wealth and freedom. There's the option to set your company up for sale. So if at any point in the future somebody comes along and wants to write you a big check, you've already got all of the due diligence materials in place. And then there's the option of having a great business. And to me, a great business is a saleable business. How does that fit into legacy? It fits into legacy because your legacy will be determined by what you leave behind. And having a great business, selling a great business, employing people inside of a great business, having a business that impacts the community or the world, those are all associated with your legacy.
This is maybe in part the ultimate legacy, right? It's selling your business. Here's a question I'd have for you relative to that. If you, I'm going to try to think of a better way to say this, but it's only a metaphor, okay? So nobody get nervous here. You shut off this program listening to it, you walk across the street, you get hit by a truck. My question is, what happens to your business? And I can tell you that if you say, my business is done, my business crashes, my business whatever, then what's your legacy? Your legacy is that your business died with you. So maybe you have the opinion that you never want to sell your business. Maybe you want to leave your business for your kids. Maybe you plan on working for several more decades, you're not sure. I don't know. It's different. And You're hearing from somebody who just sold a business that I started and ran for over 20 years, and then what that meant. And I got to tell you, it was an enormous learning experience for me. But I can also tell you that there are years, maybe even decades of time, that if something happened to me, even if I was disabled, my business would have died. So I'm not wishing any bad things, but I am saying that if you were to consider building and structuring a business that is ready for sale, as Rick just described, even if you don't intend to sell it, you're still building what I would call a legacy business. My first business when I got out of school, I went to chiropractic school, was a chiropractic practice. I sold that business in 1991, so as of the time of this recording, that's over 20 years ago. That practice is still going today. I drive by it and I smile because I say, I started that business over 20 years ago. I've been uninvolved in it for over 20 years, and it's still there, still thriving, still doing its thing, still serving people. I feel like that's a part of my legacy. I got that thing going, even though I sold it. I sold my next business in 2011, 2 years ago, as of the time of this recording. That business continues to go, and they've expanded, and and it's a much bigger business, my first business, etc. The point being, at some point in time, none of us lives forever. Your business needs to be sold, or it needs to be transferred, or something like that. And Superman syndrome has us stay in the business in such a way that's unhealthy, and we've taught you all about that. But ultimately, in the consideration, which is a hard thing to consider for some people who are entrepreneurs in love with what they do, the business has got to be structured in a way that it's saleable. One of my favorite lines on this, to kind of open up this conversation, is what Michael Gerber said. Years ago, I was listening to, I think, an E-Myth Live type thing. And his attitude was, as far as making a saleable business, if you didn't sell it, you bought it. Mm-hmm. So either way, you're in. Either it's a saleable business, but if you're saying you want to keep it, it means you're buying your own business. You want to hold on to it, or you want to sell it.
The paradox is most of us create our own companies because we want freedom.
Right.
and then we realize we're an employee of our own company.
Yeah.
Did you want to say more? Because I want to add.
No,
some
I
more
want you to
flavor.
go ahead.
So there's a great book called Built to Sell by John Warrilow. And he says, run your company, don't let it run you.
Mm-hmm.
Most business owners started the company because they wanted more freedom to work on their own schedules, make the kind of money they deserve, and eventually retire on the fruits of their labor. Unfortunately, according to John, the author, most owners find that stepping out of the picture is extremely difficult because their business relies too heavily on their personal involvement, just like you were saying, Superman syndrome. Without them, their company, no matter how big or profitable, is essentially worthless. But there's good news, and the good news is you can take specific steps, no matter what stage the business is in, to create a valuable, saleable company. I don't know where you are. You could be a lone entrepreneur. You could be someone that's dreaming about becoming an entrepreneur, or you could have 1,000 employees. But here's a story that is extremely close to home for me, and it's what prompted Patrick and I to do this module for you. And it's the story of a business partner of mine. 6 years ago, we were on the beach in Italy, and he pulled out an iPhone. It had just come out. It was the summer of 2007. And Apple just made the announcement that they were going to allow apps on iPhones. And he said, I don't know anything about apps, but it sounds interesting. A lot of people are going to buy this product, so I'm going to start an app development company.
And he's not a programmer either, which is
not a programmer, no employees. He was sitting on the beach. Now, we have been, and are close friends. He knew about simplicity, probability, and leverage. He knew about the business finishing school principles at the time. And he decided he was going to make a saleable company for day one. From day one, it's going to be a saleable company. Now, you have to understand, he is where all of us are. Last month's module was on curiosity. This guy was extremely curious. How do I make a saleable company? And he thought about something that would be saleable to a bigger company. So he was thinking about an exit from day one. All of us could stop what we're doing right now and start a new saleable company tomorrow. We could do that just like this person did. In any case, as of 2 weeks ago, he sold the business for $50 million.
And he owned 100% of it.
And he owned 100% of the stock. He never raised $1 of outside capital. He focused on making sure the business was saleable from day one. He kept simplicity, probability, and leverage in mind all the time. And why am I bringing that story up? I'm bringing that story up because anybody can do it if they're curious, if they put the right thought process in place, if they read books like Built to Sell by John Warrilow, and you could see the books at the end of the implementation guide. There's also another book that I want to recommend to you, a book by Ned Miner. And the name of this book is Deciding to Sell Your Business, The Key to Wealth and Freedom. Now, Patrick and I are not going to get into the technicalities associated with selling your business. We want to focus on the mindset. It is still, to this day, shocking to me when I sit across the table from an entrepreneur who says to me, I had no idea that I would blow my back out and I couldn't work anymore. Mm-hmm. Or I had no idea that an event could happen like a lawsuit and it would put me out of business. And I always say, how could you have no idea? First of all, every business goes through lawsuits. Every business encounters storms. Every business encounters torpedoes. That's why we did the module in year one on the battleship principle. Of course you knew that. And they go, well, yeah, you're right. That's like saying, I didn't know that marriage would be difficult. Every marriage encounters difficulties. It's just insane that people would go through life and blame a failure of their business on an event. Well, a failure of a business on an event is ludicrous because every business encounters events, and that's why it's up to us, all of us as business owners, to create a saleable business, whether or not we want to sell it now.
One of the things that you hit on that I think is rarely discussed is the psychology of it. Yes, there are the mechanisms of how to sell your business, how to get it valuated, how to negotiate, and all those kinds of things. And incidentally, a lesson on that, I'm going to give you just one quick lesson. Never represent yourself. You taught me that. Remember, you're like, Why are you representing yourself in the sale of your business? You need to have an agent. That's how it gets done properly, as compared to you trying to represent yourself in your business, which was really good advice and something that I would never do again, as far as doing it myself. But there are those mechanisms, and incidentally, if you're ever going to sell your business, that's one that just saved you a lot. Hire an agent. You could pay them either a flat fee or some small percentage of proceed, whatever it is. But get somebody who's really skilled at negotiations, because it's very, very complicated. We'll probably talk about that in a little bit as far as getting a business sold. So, bottom line is, I went through extraordinary psychological battles, because after 22 years of being the CEO of a company that you start from scratch, that goes through all the things that it went through, your identity gets wrapped up in it. And a part of what I believe you have to do to create a saleable business is what your friend did that you're just describing. Day one set out to say, I'm going to sell this business. I think this is a cool thing. I see it coming. I'm excited. He had some passion around apps, and so on. Create a business. But from day one, he was emotionally attached to the exit of the business, not just saying that my identity is that business. I need to have my office. I need to have my employees. I need to have people see me as the CEO of XYZ company, et cetera, et cetera. It's like, no, I'm structuring an entity here that provides a lot of value in the world in the way that it does, and I'm having it not depend on me. I had a business mentor a long time ago say to me, do you have a business, or does the business have you? Which is similar to the quote that you were saying earlier, Rick, which is really important, because I realized the business had me. I didn't have a business. And what was the qualifying test to answer that question? If you get up Monday morning and decide you don't want to go in, is that okay? If that's okay, then you've got a business. If it's not okay, then the business has you. So ultimately, you want to get to a point where you have a business. And we're not telling you anything you don't know, but I think we have to radiate consciousness on this concept, because I believe some people say, yeah, I get it. But when you look at their actual business, their structure, the behaviors, what they do on a day-to-day basis, their employees, the reliance the business has on them, and any kind of a proposition or preposition that says this business can be put on the market at any moment in time and be sold. I think it gets you to behave differently. Let me give you a metaphor. Let's say you live in a home. Imagine your house where you live right now, your car if you want, any asset. So think of your business like an asset. Take any asset that you have right now, but let's go with a house or a car. And let's say that you're in the house that you're going to be in, and you think you're going to be there for the next 30 years, 20 years, whatever it is. You're going to raise your family there. You're going to be there for however long it is. How are you treating that house? You might find that there's a nick in the wall that needs to be spackled and painted. You might find that there's certain repairs on different things. The kids might have done certain damage. God knows my kids have got damage all over my house. Things that they've done, and you fix it and they re-damage, what have you. You might look at the siding. You might look at, just the front door. Who knows? And you probably would take a passive approach saying, that's not that big a deal. I don't need to really fix that. I don't really need to change that. I don't need to put the attention on that, because I'm going to be here for so many years. Now imagine this house is on the market and people are coming to view it, and you're getting ready to sell it. You're going to treat your house differently. Every time you see something that's not going to show well, you're going to jump all over it. You're going to probably put systems in place for the maintenance of the house to be better than they are right now. Or your car, the same thing. You might notice your car is a little dirty. I don't need to take it to the car wash. I'm going to be driving it for the next few years, whatever it is. It's scratched, it's dead, whatever it might be. As compared to saying, I'm selling this car and I'm going to be selling it pretty soon, you're going to treat the asset differently. I believe that if you have a frame of reference where you're basically thinking to yourself, my business is always for sale, and either somebody else is buying it or I'm buying it, but it's always for sale, I believe you will manage and approach that business, that asset, differently than you do today.
I'd like to add something to this, Patrick, because it really is a mindset thing. We want to focus on mindset today. And another way to further that analogy is, let's say you find out that a great uncle passes away and he wills to you in his will a 1930 Duesenberg touring sedan. And a 1930 Duesenberg is an old car. It's worth a lot of money. And without knowing anything about you, I don't know anything about you, but I know if you were willed this car, you would do everything to find a humidity-controlled garage of the highest caliber to store this car. You would find the best mechanic to work on this car. You wouldn't hire your brother-in-law. You wouldn't hire your best friend. You would hire the best. You would hire the best person to work on interiors. You would find an expert on Duesenbergs. Well, why is it in your business, the business that's worth a lot of money if you do things right, why aren't you holding out for the best of everything in your business? Because just like holding out for the best of everything with your Duesenberg, which is going to make that asset worth a lot of money, holding out for the best of everything in your business does the same thing. This is all about simplicity, probability, and leverage, because making these decisions is what will give you the simplicity, probability, and leverage. So at the end of the day, you have to make a decision. Do I want my golden goose that's going to lay me golden eggs? And the golden eggs are the ability to sell the business, the ability to maximize profits in the business, the ability to have the business serve all of your stakeholders. Are you going to treat that golden goose with the utmost care and respect and have that golden goose be sellable? Or are you going to treat it like the vast majority of business owners treat their business? They make casual decisions around who to hire. They make casual decisions around what business products they should sell. They make casual decisions such as who to bring on board. I want people that I can control. I want people that will treat me like the Superman that I am. No, at the end of the day, you want a saleable business. We're in year 4 here. Whether or not you sell it, it has to be saleable. And that's the key phrase here. Another topic to add to this conversation is if you think all the way back to year 1 when we talked about the battleship principle, which was about setting up a holding entity to hold all of your other companies and investments inside of one entity. Now think about, as you're adding these various products and companies and investments, think about having each one of those be saleable. I think about the beginning of my holding company more than 20 years ago now, where a lot of investments we got into were not saleable. A lot of the theories and philosophies that I now believe in with every fiber of my being, I didn't know then. I wasn't aware of them. As new information and knowledge comes into my consciousness, I'm more aware of what to do. But imagine from this day forward, every business or piece of real estate or project or anything that you get involved in is saleable. Well, that makes it a whole lot easier at the time that you do need to sell. I've been wrestling in my accountability group and with Patrick around the topic of when is it right for me to sell? Well, I'm involved in a lot of different investments, and some of them, especially the early ones, weren't saleable and still aren't. So here I'm getting to deal with the opposite side of this issue that we're telling you about. The opposite side is, what if you're in things that aren't saleable? Well, where I've landed on the topic is I'm going to package all of those things that are not as saleable, package them up into an entity, and sell that entity off at a much, much, much reduced price to what it's really worth. Why would I do that? Because I think that that's the simplicity, probability, and leverage lens way to make a decision like that. You get it out of your life, you get it out of your consciousness, you get it out of your field of view, so you could focus on creating the next saleable golden goose.
All of you listening are at varying stages of your career, entrepreneurially speaking. And for some of you, the idea of selling a business is maybe more upsetting. For some of you, it is enticing. Some of you, you're not sure yet. Ultimately, there are, I believe, two sides of the equation which we've described that I want you to really be considering now: the psychological side and the structural side. On the psychological side, it's almost, in a sense, at least for me, and I think for a lot of you, it's like walking your daughter down the aisle, right? You birth this thing, you raise it, you have all these experiences with it, you identify some of the best times of your life with it, and now you're basically walking it down the aisle to hand it off to somebody else to live the rest of their life with it, hopefully, right? So it psychologically becomes a very, very difficult thing, and it's a paradoxical emotion, because in one respect you're like, wow, I've dreamed of this day in a sense, because you want to see that the legacy of your business lives on past you, but at the other side, it's like you're admitting to yourself that a certain part of your life has now passed, and you're ready for the next phase of your life. For me, I'm somebody who lives extremely healthy. When I actually was getting down to the final negotiations on the sale of my business, and I'll never forget this because I was in Italy with my family and some friends, and the contracts were coming due, and it was becoming a reality. I literally got so ill, and it was just purely psychological stress, that I ended up in a hospital twice. I didn't know what was happening to me. It was basically anxiety. But I was having these weird symptoms, and I'm usually very stoic, so I wouldn't imagine that any stress could really get to me. God, I've been an entrepreneur for how many years? I've had all kinds of stress in the business. But the idea of selling it really turned into something that psychologically was dislocating for me. And I started to realize how much of my own personal identity, how much of my own image of myself, how much of my persona as far as how I felt other people viewed me was tied up into this business. I became inseparable from it, and I believe that was a critical error on my part. So I'm hoping that you'll learn from that error. And that's why I believe, if you might be sitting here now saying, I got 25 years before I'm selling my business. Why am I even listening to this now? The answer is because if you were to put yourself into the frame of reference today, that your business is for sale right now, all your behaviors with that business are going to change in a significant way, and for the better. And when it does come time, whenever the day comes, whether you're passing it along to your kids or you're selling it outright, what have you, it's going to be a much better experience for you than it was for me. And that's what I'm hoping to communicate here by sharing this with you.
And I would say, why not, Patrick? Why not, with the 24 hours in a day that we all have, why not create the most value? Why not create the most leverage? Why not create the most opportunity for someone to take your business to the next level? I love the story that Phil Romano told me about the doctor who came up with a medical device invention. And he wanted to build this huge company and hire all these salespeople, and he had this vision of this thriving company, but he didn't have any experience growing a company. And so Phil said, what do you really want? What do you want your legacy to be? And the guy said, well, I really want a winery in California. That's what I want. And he said, well, hell, why are we messing around with this medical device? Why don't we sell it to Johnson & Johnson? And Johnson & Johnson, after a few meetings, was able to write them a check, which was bigger than any check he could have hoped to make, growing the business, and struggling and straining and doing all that. He was able to get a check that was bigger than any check he would have gotten, and he ended up buying a winery in California, and he's been making wine for the last 15 years, which is what he wanted in the first place. How many of you have this winery in your mind, whatever version of the winery it is, becoming a playwright, living in Europe? Oh, I don't know. We could think of 1,000 things. Taking a trip around the world for 2 years. Whatever that winery is for you, why delay? You've only got one opportunity to live this life. The other thing, just to respond to what Patrick said earlier, even if you have a business, even if you're fully vested in your business, no one is telling you to not set up subsidiaries of your business that are saleable. You don't have to not create saleable entities because you're already vested in one business. Simplicity, probability, and leverage, and all of these modules allow you to create other ideas into businesses that are saleable. So always keep that in mind.
So ultimately, what are the behaviors and takeaways from this particular module? First off, this whole year is attached to the concept of legacy, and the sale of your business is a significant part of your legacy. Number two, I believe if you take to heart the admonitions here, and you were to look at your business today as something that was on the market to be sold, you would probably be doing a lot of things in your business that would be very good for your business. Remember that this is about really kind of the context, perception, and psychodynamic side of the sale of your business. You know, the actual sale of your business structurally, I think Rick gave you some good books to read if you want to get deeper into that. So try this on. See what the exercises are for you to have this view. If you've got executives on your team, say, you know what, I want to do a thought experiment here, and I want to hear from you. If we were getting ready to sell this business tomorrow, and I'm not going to sell it, I'm not selling it for 10 years, 20 years, but it's an exercise that I got from a training program I'm in, what would we feel like we need to do immediately with this asset to put it in a saleable condition? And whatever that is, I'm sure it makes your business more valuable and it makes it more valuable to you. So hopefully we got you thinking out of the box a little bit. We got you stimulated here about looking at your business through a new lens, and that you can come up with some ideas that will help safeguard your legacy into the future because you took this approach towards viewing your business and you took action on it. So with Rick, again, you're in year 4 legacy of Business Finishing School. We thank you for being on this journey for so long. We're really grateful for it. I mean, we're enjoying this stuff. It's really a part of our souls here in sharing this information. I just hope that after you hear these recordings, you go and you take action on them. Enjoy. Let your business brain finish what your entrepreneurial heart started.